What if the Lord is offering you a choice? You can look good in the eyes of everyone around you, or you can look good in His eyes. Isn't that a compelling question? It just really gets to me, because this is actually something that the Lord challenged me with just about a year and a half ago. You know, He basically said, Vicki, do you want to look good in everyone else's eyes, or do you want to look good in mine? Because a lot of times things will boil down to that. And the reason that we get stuck in this need to be agreed with and accepted in the eyes of everybody around us, what does that is simply the fear of man versus the fear of God. And so what I want to touch on today is the fear of God. I love this topic because I was going to say I feel, but no, I know, I absolutely know. If we can live our lives with this one beautiful fear, the fear of God, if we can live our lives in the fear of the Lord, all other fears start to look silly. We will gain a right perspective on everything else in our lives, including those anxieties that used to haunt us. The fear that banishes every other fear is the fear of God. Now, I'm a word person, so I'm going to share with you the definition of the fear of the Lord. To fear God is to recognize His authority, dominion, worth, and supremacy, while also acknowledging our insignificance and depravity apart from Him. In other words, He's the boss, we're not. We recognize those things at the same time, this is important, at the same time we also acknowledge our own insignificance and depravity, which means our lust for sin apart from Him. That's what the fear of the Lord is. Now, there was a time when God really started showing me and opening up to me the beauty of the fear of God and what it really is. And what He used to do that was the ocean. Kenny and I, my husband and I, our favorite place to vacation is Tybee Island. And so we kind of have this tradition now, after being 10 years married and going there 8 or 9 times, we have this tradition. On the first night that we roll into town, because we always drive to Tybee Island, and we roll into town and we always eat at the same place, Stingrays. If you ever go to Tybee Island, eat at Stingrays and get the fish plate. So then we walk down to the ocean. Well, by that time it's dark. It's always dark, and there aren't very many people down there. And so we go down there, and then I take off my shoes, and he holds my shoes while I go down to the surf. And I can hardly wait to get there, and I just want to I can feel it while I'm talking about it. And I just want to get my feet in the water. What I realized is that my response was just almost over the top, and this overpowering feeling of worship just engulfs me, and all I can do is just be like, oh God, oh God, oh God. And so of course I was trying to analyze. After the first year, I thought, what was that? Why did that do that to me? And I realized that the ocean has such a potential for destruction, and yet possesses such utter, absolute beauty, that what it did is that the ocean embodied for me my feelings about God. The personification of that for me is the ocean, because it stirs up this feeling of worship and a feeling of terror and a feeling of, oh, I can't stand it. It's so beautiful. I really just can't even handle that much beauty. Now, I want you to focus for a minute and think about, because my favorite subject is fearlessness, right? So right now, I want you to think about how the fear of God and fearlessness intersect. How does the fear of God create fearlessness when it comes to everything else? Okay. When you think about the fact that God could annihilate every living thing, including us, with the blink of an eye, with a snap of a finger, whatever, with a thought. With a thought. He could, boop, just annihilate everything, including us, right? It is true that he could do that to us in the blink of an eye, but he chooses not to. This same God that could wipe everything out with a single thought has chosen to preserve us, and not just that, to love us, to feel compassion for us, to defend us. He has chosen to not just tolerate us, but actually call us his beloved. This same God, when you think about his absolute dominion over our enemies, the things that we fear, all that stuff that keeps us up at night, that actually starts to become smaller and smaller and smaller and less significant. What the fear of God will do is allow us to start seeing God's allness alongside our smallness. And he is the same God who can take care of those things that throw us into anxiety. Can you understand more now how the fear of God, seeing him rightly, will annihilate all this other stuff? It won't even make sense anymore. Like, why? Why am I so scared of that? This is my God. This God is my God. This God defends me and has chosen to protect me and love me and know me. Know my name. Look into my heart. Hold me in his hand. Hold my heart next to his heart. That God. Why in the world would I be afraid of something that might happen at work? Right? Why would I be afraid that maybe I won't have the mortgage to pay next month? Do you see how things can start coming into perspective? Now let me interject here. You'll notice that if you ask people to define the fear of God, a lot of times it seems to be a popular notion that when the Bible talks about the fear of God, they're talking about a healthy respect. Like we might have a healthy respect for fire, or something like that. Well, I beg to differ. I really don't think that we can afford to water it down like that. I do believe that when the Bible talks about the fear of God, that it is reminding us that there is cause for trembling, that this God that we serve not only desires but demands things like justice, holiness, that he is a God of judgment, and yes, even wrath. That the word wrath is in the Bible. When we look at a word like wrath and we back away from it and we just can't handle it, and we start thinking to ourselves, well, it doesn't really mean that. What we're forgetting is that all of the facets of God are products of his love. Okay? All of these things are birthed of the fact that God is love. Therefore, attributes, for lack of a better word, characteristics of God, including forgiveness, protection, comfort, tenderness, compassion, those characteristics, along with justice, discipline, holiness, judgment, are all equal products of his love. So you think to yourself, how can something like wrath be the product of love? Well, you know what? I don't know. Because this God that I serve, I can't understand everything about him. If I could understand everything about him, he wouldn't be God. And I sure wouldn't waste any time worshiping a God I could understand. So there are certain aspects of God that I'm just never going to get. It's just not, it does not compute, okay? How wrath is birthed of love, I can't really wrap my brain around that. I can only know that it's true. I can only trust that it's true. So, here's the beautiful bottom line for us as believers when it comes to the topic we're talking about, which is the fear of God. Okay. We are exempt, as children of God, we are exempt from his wrath. However, it doesn't mean he's not to be feared, okay? It does not mean he is not to be feared, even though we are exempt from his wrath. Why? Because he is a fearsome God. And that's a good thing. That should prompt wonder. It should prompt awe. It should prompt worship. Lately, I just keep looking up at the sky. I mean, it just seems like the sky, the clouds, the sunsets are just blowing my mind. And I keep ending up snapping photos of the sky. How can you not look at the sky and just go, whoa, and not feel that fear of God? So, my, let me see if I'm done. Okay, good enough. We'll touch on this again. How's that? My challenge to you today is to never ever shy away from the fear of God. Don't water it down. Embrace it. You know what? Pursue it. Pursue the fear of God. And if you do, and as that becomes part of who you are, I promise you that the other fears in your lives will get smaller and smaller and smaller until there are fears that used to keep you up all night long, and you'll be able to look at them and say, nah, no big deal. How did that ever keep me up at night? I promise you that that is a fruit of the fear of God, is fearlessness in regard to everything else. Okay? So, that's it for today. Please subscribe. I'll see you soon.